Around Michigan, there's so many good spots. A lot of time it's grandma or, Aunt Bev slamming the kitchen cabinet. They just want to be kind of recognized.
Haunted Michigan. Terrifying tales.
Well, back for another episode of Haunted Michigan with Meltdown. I'm your host, Meltdown, here with Terri Houlton, and she's from the Great Lakes Ghost Hunters of Michigan. We're going to see what she has to say for herself on this episode of Haunted Michigan. Terri, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Saw you a couple weeks ago at a party, and we kind of connected there and then decided, well, let's get you on Haunted Michigan and see what you're made of. So first of all, tell everybody about the Great Lakes Ghost Hunters of Michigan and some of your experience.
Okay. Well, the group has been around for quite some time. They have a lot of very experienced members. I've been with them since 2019, and we do residential, we do museums, libraries, haunted, like Eloise, of course. So we kind of do a little bit of everything. And my first time ghost hunting ever was in the basement of Eloise in 2019. And that night specifically offered a lot.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll get to that here coming up in just a bit. But as far as some of the people I talked to, you're kind of new at this, only 5 years in. But
Yeah,
did you start this group or did you join this group?
I joined the group.
Okay, so you got other people on there that have been doing this for a while, and maybe you look up to them as far as some of their
Correct.
experiences as well.
Yes, absolutely. I learned a lot from them.
Yeah, no kidding. So, whereabouts are you located in? You're down here in Southeast Michigan?
Correct.
Yeah. And you just mentioned Eloise. That was one of our conversations that we had when I met you a few weeks back. And how many times have you investigated Eloise?
Oh my gosh. It's been a couple years, so probably 40, 50 times.
Oh, no kidding. Okay. So you've
Yeah.
I'm assuming you've done this with big groups and with small groups as well.
Yeah, I was a tour guide there for a couple years, with the group and then just on my own.
All right, so
So,
as a tour guide, like they had some they just did a Facebook Live there the other day, Jenny and all the girls over there, and
correct.
they actually sent it to me, but I was like, I was working, I'm like, I can't sift through 2 hours of stuff. But they said they heard people walking and different things like that. So as a tour guide at Eloise, you must have seen and experienced a lot.
Very much. And the footsteps is one thing I heard my very first time there as well. It was in the basement, of course, and it was like a lady in high heels. And there was nobody on the floor. In fact, everybody was outside of the building taking a break. And we were just sitting with our equipment. And out of nowhere, in the middle of a hallway, not even near like a staircase that somebody would come down, you could hear like 8 steps in high heels. And I was with somebody and I just looked at her and said, "Yep, I heard it too." And that same night, I was pushed into a closet. I found a portal. There was a lady floating over a chair. Like it was
Wait, whoa, whoa,
legit.
whoa,
Probably would have
wait,
scared
wait,
most people.
wait, back. You found a portal. There was a lady floating over the chair. I just can't breeze by this stuff. So tell me about that.
Well, so I was with my dowsing rods in, I think it was like a small janitor closet. And I was talking, "Hey, how's it going? Is it okay if I'm here?" And like, "No." And okay. So I walked out of that room and I was just holding my one rod. There were people coming towards me, and I got to where there is an elevator, and my dowsing rod started spinning, and that signifies portal. And I looked up and I said, "Do you see this?" And they said, "Yep."
You know,
So that was,
no, I was gonna say, the dowsing rod thing to me doesn't do much for me. I don't know.
uh,
That's just my own thing. Now, I mean, obviously, if you saw it spinning around crazily like that, I mean that I'd be willing to. But I've seen it before. And people ask you questions. It does the thing and the whole 9 yards. But are you a fan of that device?
I actually am quite a bit. They work really well for me. And it's one thing that if I put a pair in somebody's hands, um, they just work.
Okay, well, maybe I'll have to try it myself because I've only watched it.
Oh gosh, no, no, you have to try it yourself. And especially if you're alone and there's no other influences around, I'll teach you.
So, so you talked about the woman floating. So tell me about that.
Yeah, so it was quite interesting because this gentleman was taking pictures on his phone. So I stood right next to him and was taking pictures, and I wasn't getting anything. But on his phone, you could see a lady like with her arms up just over this chair. I can send you pictures. And I took a picture of his phone screen because I couldn't capture it. And we tried the dowsing rods and they weren't doing much. So I said, you know what? Let's put them in his hands. As soon as he got them in his hands, the questions were being answered for him only. So there was something between him and the entity that we were seeing, definitely. Sometimes they only like to speak to men. They don't want to speak to a woman or vice versa, depending on their history. So, uh, yeah, it was a pretty nifty little experience.
Now you're talking about Eloise now. So what other places around Michigan have you investigated?
Well, I did mention that our group does go to houses. We've done quite a few houses that have some activity going on. We end up doing a lot of cleansing and just teaching people how to handle what they have going on in their house, and trying to narrow down exactly who or what it is. A lot of time it's grandma or, Aunt Bev slamming the kitchen cabinet. They just want you to say hi. They just want to be kind of recognized. Um, and around Michigan, there's so many good spots. A lot of the museums, like the Wayne Museum, the Westland Museum, um, we've had a lot of paranormal stuff there, and there's a lot of activity. There's a great little spot in the Westland Historical Society. They have a few houses and buildings there, and there's a round house, or I'm sorry, octagon house, and that's very, very active. There's also a small Eloise museum, and they have a lot of pictures and artifacts and a lot of history on it. So that's a great spot to go to. But that all those little buildings are quite haunted in there as well.
No kidding. This is in the Westland Historical Museum, you said?
Correct.
Oh, no. Whereabouts is that? I've never seen that before.
It's, oh gosh, I want to say Wayne and Ford in that
Okay.
vicinity.
Okay. Interesting. So you mentioned some places down here in Southeast Michigan. Have you ventured out of the area?
Yes. One weekend that was phenomenal was up in New York, and we did Wildwood Sanitarium and Hinsdale House in a weekend. And there was a lot of activity that weekend. That's where I saw my first shadow figure. Um, Mirrors were acting crazy. My husband was taking pictures, and everyone he was looking straight ahead, but in the picture, his eyes were going absolutely off to the left.
Hmm.
And I even stood under him, being taller than me, and it just, yeah, there was something going on with the mirror. Um, there was also in Hinsdale House, we were standing with the owner in the kitchen just chatting, and there's no attic above that kitchen, but there is above the rest of the house. And we heard specifically what was like a marble. Like if you took a marble and dropped it and bounce, 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 bounce. And we all heard it and we just kind of looked up like there's nothing above us right now. But we all heard it very audibly. So pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah. And so that was in New York. Whereabouts in New York was that? I don't know
Oh,
which places are located. It's by the city or in the middle of the state or what?
yeah, there is a Hinsdale, New York, and that's where the Hinsdale house is. So it's not far into New York. It's in the woods, like
Oh,
very, yeah, kind of hilly. There's actually it's called the Giving Tree up a hill behind Hinsdale. And I trekked up there alone with my recording devices, and I heard tales of people hearing Indian drums. And I thought, well, I just want to see the tree. Let me go up and check it out. So I got to the top, checked out the tree, and as I was turning to go back, I stopped and listened, and I thought to myself, this airplane's taking forever to go, you know, across. and I waited and waited and waited, and then I realized couldn't been a plane.
Hmm.
So I walked down the stairs a little bit further and I started to hear a rhythm. So I walked down a handful more stairs and then the beating got more intense. So I definitely experienced the drumming. It is built on Seneca Indian land.
Hmm.
So it absolutely makes sense that that would happen there.
Yeah. Well, let's get back to Michigan here. So you just mentioned how at Eloise you were shoved into a closet.
Yes.
Now that
Yep.
was your first night, or was that a different
That
time?
was also the first night, correct. Yes.
Wait,
I
whoa,
was,
back up for 1 second. So it's 2019. You're like, I'm gonna get into this ghost hunting, ghost investigating, and you get shoved into a closet. That would have probably been my last time.
well, I guess I just love it
Okay.
and it's intriguing. And I'm really glad I didn't let it, kind of scare me away because I have had so many more experiences there. There's lots of great TV shows that have been to Eloise as well. So look out for those. But yeah, I was just walking and small closet. It actually had the ceramics that they used for art class.
Now be a little
And
bit more specific. Now, because people have been through Eloise. So whereabouts were you?
I was still in the basement, which
Uh,
it's the haunted house now, so that part doesn't really exist, but it was a pottery closet and only about 3 feet deep. But the transition strip between the room and the closet, like I was pushed and my foot hit that and I just kind of stumbled forward. And I've got all kinds of stuff in my hands because I'm trying to record and, have my equipment going. And I was walking very slow. So there was no reason for me to trip with the force that I did. It actually hurt my leg when I kicked that strip, but I was going so slow that it didn't make sense.
Now, were there other people around you that witnessed this?
Yes.
And was this a group you were with, or just some friends, or what?
It was people who were touring the group that night.
Gotcha. Would you say that was the time that you were forcibly touched the hardest?
Yes, definitely the hardest.
And you've been touched, scratched, everything, or no?
I have not been scratched. I have felt, touching before and like sitting on there was a fold out bed in Eloise, and I've been sitting on that and had it just keep shaking and shaking and shaking. So,
And did you just
a
stay
lot
on
of
it?
I'm sorry?
Did you just stay on the bed then until it stopped?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I asked the person on the other side of the bed if they were shaking. So we were sitting like back to back. And I thought maybe they had like the nervous leg shake. And I said, "Are you shaking?" And I looked back and they were sitting still and they said, "No," but the bed was still shaking. So I could visually see that they were not doing it.
Now, I don't know if you saw this story. I can't remember if we talked about it, but I was there at the beginning of August, and we
Mhm.
captured the screams in the background.
Yes.
And as I sit here right now, and I've told this to other people before, I can't explain that. So, have you
Yes.
heard stuff like that at Eloise?
Absolutely. Yes. There was something I actually captured on video. I was on the 5th floor near the Michigan Avenue side,
Mm.
and it's a little surgical room. And I was just taking a video because a friend of mine was considering coming up with a group. So I said, "Yeah, I'll take a little video, see what it's about." So I was in there just, yammering away. This is that. And I heard like tink, tink, like metal on metal. Thought, well, that's strange. And it was coming from this slender closet. And I heard it again. I was like, okay. So got to the closet, heard it one more time. And I thought, if it's a bat, it's going to go in my hair. Obviously, it's a mess. And it wasn't. I opened the door and I kept hearing the noise. And I asked everybody on the other floors if they were near it, if they touched it, if anybody was messing around, and nobody was near it. It was pretty late in the night, so there weren't many people left in the building even.
Yeah,
So,
we were in one of two groups that night, and both group had, I don't know, between 15 and 20 people. And sometimes when there's a lot of groups there, it tends to get a little bit chaotic, and you can't tell if it's just somebody walking around or
Yes,
cases.
right, and that's why I checked, and it was the part of the night where you have free roam for, like, that last hour,
Okay.
and, it was I think it was colder out, and I think, with just no heat, people leave a little bit early, so, it was that time where it's just the stragglers that are left.
Yeah,
So
we were in the, 4th floor on the Michigan Avenue side in the surgical room when I got that video. I didn't get the video, some girl got it, but when we heard
okay.
and all of us heard it, like, every person in that room heard it,
Yeah.
and I grabbed the guy next to me, the singer of the band, The Funeral Portrait, because I I thought my first thought was the other group had seen something. I thought it was them,
Yes.
and then we radioed up to them right away, and they said they hadn't heard or seen anything. So that was,
Right.
like, really weird, but
Absolutely.
but
It's great evidence to especially have it recorded, it's validating.
yeah, like I said, I can't explain it, even as, we sit here. So have you been, up to upper parts of Michigan and the UP or anything to investigate?
I have not had the chance, but I would definitely love to.
What about other places down here in the lower part, like Central Michigan or anywhere?
Um, Probably the next, closer place I've gone to Ohio. There was an old sheriff station that we went to, me and my sister and a friend, and, it was very active that night. There was lots of shadow figures, all of our toys, if you will, were just lighting up, and everything was going off there. It was definitely definitely a night to be had.
Now, getting back to the when you investigate the houses and
Mhm.
stuff like that. So people reach out to you, and then you go to their houses, and you try to figure out what's going on, and what are some of the crazier houses you've been to?
Well, there was one where, a little boy seemed to be possessed, if you will.
Hmm. An actual living,
Um,
a boy, a living boy.
yes, yes, a young one, and, um, there was scratches on the walls that didn't make sense. When we got out the Palo Santo, which is, uh, a version of, like, saging, and so you can, do it on the people kind of across the body, and, mom, sister, fine, get to him, had a absolute screaming fit.
Hmm.
Um, there was so you can take, like a Mac flashlight and have it on, and then just back it up a tad so it's off, and you can ask the spirits questions. If it turns on, that would be a yes, or you can direct it. And we had it down as one of our many tools that we were using, and it would not turn on for any of us. And he laid on the ground next to it and said, "Turn on." Turned right on. Um, Lots of flies, which are indicative of, some activity. And then this very small boy walked over to the couch, reached in, and pulled out one of those large, like, grilling forks. Now we're talking like a 2-year-old. Like, where did he even get it at?
Oh
He
my
can't
god.
reach the cabinets. They had no chairs in the house because he was climbing on the chairs and, doing things. So lots of interesting stuff was happening that day.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. So, do you know whatever happened to him? You don't have to
No,
give his name or address or anything like that, but have you
yeah,
followed
yeah,
up
it's
at all?
it's been a couple years, and they did reach out a number of times afterward, but I think that they were stirring up some activity and not they were trying to do what we were doing, but not safely, and that's only gonna make things worse.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw
Um,
that new Netflix movie called The Deliverance. Have you seen that?
no, not yet. I'll
Yeah.
check it out
So
though.
it's about possession. There's flies in the house, the whole
Okay.
so, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
that sounds like a pretty wild story. What other places have you, investigated?
There was, let's see, I hosted at a church downtown, called the Narthex. I had a night there. There's a church and a schoolhouse behind it, and that had a lot of activity, a lot of different stuff going on, in both places, and there was a couple groups. Um, and we also had a few nights at the Horror Museum in Monroe.
Mhm.
Have you been there?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I know Nate, and a lot of people have been down there to investigate. So what'd you think?
Yeah, oh gosh, very active.
Yeah.
Very active, and now that he has all those Ouija boards, I wanna set something up after, after haunt season because I work at the haunted house at Eloise too. So, once that's done, I wanna get over there. He's got so much more stuff, I can't wait.
Yeah, he's got some pretty wild things. Of course, I know Nate and I follow him and stuff, and he's got
Yeah,
the stage that Dimebag Daryl was,
dime big, yep,
and so yeah, it's pretty wild. A lot of people talk about Monroe, and you mentioned Westland, and those kind of places come up quite a bit when I'm talking to people. Obviously, Monroe, there was the battle there or whatever, but it
yes.
seems like a pretty active part of the state, huh?
Definitely, definitely. There was another house that we went to that was down in Monroe, and it was just riddled with everything.
No kidding. Was it older house? I take it.
Definitely, and, we have a historian in the group, his name's Ryan, and he always does a deep dive on the land, going, back as far as he can, looking at previous owners, anything that may have gone on in the house, just so we have an idea of what we're going into, to start with. But yeah, there was a lot of activity there, portals, and I don't even think we really figured out exactly everything that was going on there. It probably could have used some more attention.
Hmm, interesting. So give a plug out to some of the other people that are in your group. I mean, I don't want you, not all thousands of them, but like who like kind of leads your group?
Yeah, Brenda and Ryan, have been there for quite a long time. Tim also, he's been there for quite a while. We have a psychic in the group. Her name is Carrie. She actually lives down in Indiana. Um, and we have a few other members too. Jeff is there. Um, that's probably the bulk of us.
The
Jennifer
core.
too. Don't want to forget her.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, and of course, you just mentioned Eloise, and you'll be working at at the haunted house throughout the season here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and Jenny and all those guys are so great. And you'll be able to live it up in Eloise, I guess, for the next month or two, eh?
Absolutely. Yes, I do the scary hair there.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
That's right, because you do the hair stuff. That's right. I forgot. We were talking about that last time I saw you. You had to do Eva's hair from Eva Under Fire.
correct. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. How'd that go that night?
Oh, really good. Really good. Yes. And they're actually about to open up for she got hooked up with the Evanescence Hailstorm show.
I saw that in this moment. Yeah. All the
Very
bands
cool.
fronted by women. Yeah. There's a lot of balls in those bands right there with those women leading them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I'll tell you what, Terry, thanks so much for your time. Maybe I'll bump into you at Eloise, and I know I'll be talking with Douglas Tate coming up here. He's going to be there one night, and the actor and
Yes.
stuff. We'll get in touch with him. He's going to be here in this studio with me when I
Oh,
talk.
fantastic.
But say hello to everybody from Great Lakes Ghost Hunters of Michigan, and we appreciate your time. And we'll have to have you back and maybe get some of your friends back as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll send you a few pictures too.
Yes, please do. That'd be awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.